So let's start.
So I don't see it recording.
Yeah, it's on my side. Yeah,
Okay.
it says recording. Yeah. So hi everyone.
Okay, great.
We are live on Facebook, and today I have Kimberly with me, who is a licensed social worker, right, Kimberly? And you're also an author, and you kind of have your own your own method that you're going to talk a little bit about after this call. We're going to chat for about 30 minutes. And today we're talking about interesting conversation. I find it interesting. And it's about how being a boy or girl doesn't do well in marriage. And Kimberly,
Right.
let's start with this, just defining, if people never heard about, like, what does it even mean to be a boy or girl in girl energy?
Absolutely. When I was working, I work with couples in private practice, and I've been doing this for years. And I started noticing the breakdown of the relationship. And so I would say to the husband, I says, are you being a boy or are you being a man in the marriage? So the definition I would give him is, a boy says, I love you because you make me feel good. So a boy is selfish. It's all about them.
Right.
So I see it a lot in dating. So if any of your listeners are dating and they want to know, am I dating a boy or am I dating a man? Because they want to know.
Right.
But here's the key. If you're dating, he's a boy. So boys date.
Oh.
But when the boy decides to give up being a boy for a woman that he can't live without, he wants to be her man. So the definition of a man is, he says, I love you because I want to take care of you.
Oh, So it stops being about him. It's more.
That's right. It stops being about him. And I like to call him the warrior. He's the warrior. He's the one who will protect his family and be there for them and make her important, work for her, give her the money. But boys won't. Boys will buy their race cars and they will not tell her where they're spending their money. So if you're going to be dating, you're going to be dating a boy. And so what you're looking for is, are you the woman that he can't live without? And when you're the woman that he can't live without, he becomes your man. So you end up marrying a man. Now, unfortunately, a lot of couples that I've worked with, they married the boy. He never really became a man. And now she's complaining to him and talking to him like a boy, telling him what to do. And so when
she becomes a mom, right? Like she.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, because basically he hasn't been developed fully into manhood, right? He got stuck in the boyhood. And so what he was looking for, probably unconsciously, was a mom, a wife, but a mom, really. And when they marry, the marriage becomes unbalanced. She becomes a mom and he still continues as a boy.
So I think it's a decision. So the guy makes a decision, and his decision, the behavior follows that decision.
So you think it's a conscious decision, right? Because I was thinking more about in lines of, like, sometimes they don't even realize. Sounds like you see more as...
Well, so when I would bring this up to the husbands, I gave them the definition, they would look at me kind of sheepishly and say, yeah, I'm a boy. And I go, how does that work for you? Because if he's a boy, then you're right. The wife ends up being the mom, because the woman has to talk to the boy. She's not talking to the man because he's not there.
Right.
So then they make a conscious decision at that point. I said, if you want her to change and to treat you with the respect you want, then you've got to talk to the boy. So what that
wife, a boy or man?
So what that looks like. So I see that little confusion. What that looks like is, I tell the man, think of it this way. You're the older brother. and you're talking to your younger brother, and you look at your younger brother and you say, what are you doing? Go home to your wife. What are you doing? Stop drinking so much. What are you doing? Stop looking at that woman over there. What are you doing? But it's the same person. So this husband is talking to himself and correcting himself, correcting his boy ways,
Right.
what he used to do when he was a boy, so that he doesn't have to have his wife talk to him like a boy.
Right. So he's developing, and basically it's done in therapy, right? I'm thinking. So he's developing that part of him that's more grown up, basically, with you by practicing this dialogue inside, by accessing a more mature part of him, right?
Yeah. Do you see this in your own practice?
So interestingly, I see more. So I do. I've seen some boys, and usually they just don't. I work because I work with women mostly. They come to me already decide. So women comes to me already deciding that she can't do anything about this relationship, and it's already on the path to separating. Because I don't work with a man. I can't, we can't work on his growing up. So he's usually really stuck in the boyhood and doesn't want to do anything. And then the woman has to make the decision whether or not she's deciding consciously to stay with the boy or she's going to divorce and find a man.
Correct. And unfortunately, I work with men whose wives have left them. And their comment to me is, I'm never doing that again. And I said, well, define that for me. What do you mean? I'm never doing what again? I'm never going to be somebody's man again. So because of their wives leaving them, what they've decided is, I might as well just stay a boy.
And how do you work with that? Like
well, when I'm coaching a broken husband or a broken ex-husband, we work on what I call the celebrated man. So I talk about what does it mean to be a celebrated man, and to find someone that, because he has to change his form of communicating with whoever he's with. So that's what we do. So I help the man recognize what happened, why things broke down, and that it wasn't because they were a man. Something else was going on, because it felt they were a man for their wife, but the wife didn't appreciate it. So they feel, why do that again?
Right. So, well, they were not. They were a boy. Or they not?
No.
Oh, they sometimes.
They were men in the marriage. Here's a little on me. I was married 18 years and I divorced my husband. Okay. Right. My husband was a man, but I was a girl. But I was the girl.
Right. I was gonna ask you and talk about the flip side. Because, and I was going to mention that I also work with some couples who it's the reverse. The man is there and he becomes this kind of dad figure, and the wife is, she can be much younger or not, but sometimes even a little bit, but she's definitely a girl, and she's sort of this, this fragile, and she can't do things on her own. Sometimes she's very scared of the world, and he becomes this protector of her, but takes on too much for her to be able to develop her full self. He takes care of her financially so she doesn't have to face the world and responsibilities, or takes care of decision making so she doesn't have to face decisions. And she doesn't have a chance to grow up in that dynamic. And I was curious to hear your experience with the reverse side.
So if I had a couple like that, and the husband is saying, look at everything that I do for her. It's not that he's keeping her a girl. So the woman began, I would coach this woman to go, just because he's doing that for you, you need to appreciate it, but also develop what you can contribute to him.
Right.
So he's contributing to you as a man. He's taking care of you. He's there for you. He's your warrior. What are you contributing to? So you can receive what he's giving you, but adding value to the relationship as a partnership. Right. I don't think there's a partnership if she remains a girl and he's the man, which is my case. I never appreciated the fact that my husband was a man. I was demanding, I was critical, I was bitchy, I was all of those things. And kind of like a form of entitlement in a strange, odd way. Like he's supposed to take care of me, he's supposed to do this.
Right, and that's what kids feel, right? Like, oh, you owe me because you just that's right. It, because I'm the child. And so I'm entitled to all your resources, all your time, kind of this like ego, centrical view that the child has.
Yeah, like, your money is my money and my money is mine.
Right.
That's definitely girl energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you kind of came to this realization yourself? Because the hardest part is to realize this dynamic, I think, because some people don't even notice it. They just think that's how it's supposed to be.
I agree. And so in putting a name to it and kind of a definition to it, my couples can see where and they will say to me, I'm being a boy here, or I'm being a girl here, and I need to grow out of it. I need to know how to handle things and be more responsive in a positive way, more understanding.
Because you teach your couples to recognize it, right? Like when they come in, you explain, you explain what it is, and
yeah, absolutely. Because I believe that they're smart people. They're smart. They'll figure it out when you put the spotlight on something. When they begin to see the behavior without a judgment about it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to watch the transition from boy to man and from girl to woman, because it's within us to create that transition. We just don't do it consciously. It typically happens when the relationship is at stake.
And that's the motivation, right? Like to change, because a lot of times in what I see in couples, like one partner is really motivated and wants to change, and the other is comfortable with the status quo. So it takes very high stakes, when, like you said, when the relationship is at stake, then it can sometimes motivate that person. Have you seen examples where the other person just doesn't change, and what happens with that when they're just not interested?
I say I see three types of people in my office. The first one is, I'll do anything to make this marriage work. The second one is, I'm sitting on the fence, we'll see. And the third one is, I'm just here to say I'm done, and I'm here because I'm going to pretend like I'm doing something about it. And I want them to be honest and come up with what's really going on. If they're done, they're done. There's nothing I can do about that. But most of the time, it's one partner is going to do anything and everything, and the other one is wait and see. So I try to get them in the same ballpark, at least for a short amount of time, so we can see what's there. We can see what's there.
Right. Yeah. I usually try to, will say like, okay, let's, for 3 months, right? Let's really commit to this. So give like a short time frame, but get them to commit fully, so they both working in it. Because if one is dragging feet, then you're not gonna get as many results as good as when they both committed and say, okay, we're gonna make it work.
Usually when what I'll do at the beginning too is, this isn't going to be marriage counseling. This is going to be, we're going to figure out if you want to do marriage counseling. And that takes the pressure off. Like there isn't an agenda, like we're here because we gonna fix the marriage. So sometimes it really is, let's look at the breakdown. Let's look at why. Let's look at what happened without thinking that we're here to do marriage counseling. Yeah.
Right. Like, let's clear our intentions. Let's see where we at, and kind of normalizing and accepting where you at. Like, if you don't want to work on this, I get it. Then, you know.
Yeah. So when you work with women, what's their biggest complaint on why they're unhappy in their marriage? I'm so always curious about that.
Probably, I'll think about that. Probably that they don't feel loved. I mean, they would, yeah, they don't feel loved. Like the, you know, it's became like a habit, especially if it's a long term. Sometimes some people say it's like, oh, it's after a year, after the romance is over, and becomes a routine, and she sort of feels like he's not giving the attention, or the whole wow factor is gone, right? The whole like the dating, and so it becomes, and they want attention, like they basically crave attention, and it's not there. But of course, it's not their adult self who wants attention. I mean, sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's their child self that wants attention. You know, they trigger wounds from the past when parents were not available and giving that attention. So basically, it is a lot of like growing up work in therapy, where they become adult and recognize that the partner is not their parent. They don't own them attention. Like, hello, you know, and learning ways to ask for your needs, but not to expect that they be guests. And that's what a child feels like. Oh, but you should know, like you should know how to love me. No, but you know, the partner doesn't owe you to know how to love you. It's asking clearly for your needs, and not feeling resentful when they're not guests. So I find this whole like, you know, princess fairy tales are very damaging. Like this idea that I'm just gonna be there, and just because I am the way I am, the prince is gonna do all the work. You know, he's gonna climb. I'll just be like Sleeping Beauty, and they'll do all the work, and we'll live happily ever after. So.
Well, you just gave an example of the girl energy versus the woman, because the girl is more me, 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 me. You're not paying attention to me. You're not giving me. You're not giving me. I don't feel loved. And so when I came back to my husband, because we divorced and came back together, and now it's 49 years later, what I did different was I would ask my husband at the end of every month, do you feel loved by me? And that was the woman talking.
Right.
Do you feel loved by me? And so if he said yes, I go, well, what specifically did I do that would make you feel loved? And he would tell me. And if he says no, then I'd say, what specifically did I do that didn't make you feel loved? What was missing? And I would get feedback from my husband. And then I would go to work on demonstrating I do love you. I do love you. And the interesting thing that would happen is I felt love. Now that's different. It wasn't that I felt loved. I felt love.
Right.
So the phrase I use is be love.
Right.
Be love.
If you switch your focus from like receiving and taking to giving, sometimes it's also a great way to like start that flow, right? The flow needs to start somewhere. So if you just take, and if you basically feel that I think if you go in therapy or do other healing work and start loving your inner child and develop relationship with her or him, then you don't need to really wait for that love to come in from the outside, whether it's your partner or grown-up parent now, you can start you become this like love generator, inside. And from that space, you can you're not as like, oh, me, give. You feel that inside, and you can start giving, and it's a mature, healthy position.
Yeah, so without realizing it, you are working with the girl energy a lot
I do. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, that's why when we talked and you mentioned it, I was like, oh, that's very familiar.
Yeah, absolutely.
I probably don't like talk about it in those terms, but I do a lot of like inner child healing and healing that girl that needs that love, because without healing her, without addressing her needs, she's just gonna be always,
Yes. Yeah. That's the girl energy. She's in the energy of her childhood and her beliefs about what it should be, rather than in her power as a woman to make it happen, to transform the relationship as opposed to be the recipient of the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, she's when she's in her girl, and a lot of us are wounded in that place, she just feels lack of love, and she thinks that it's because her husband is the reason. And recognizing that he's not the reason is usually it's like, oh wow, like wow, he's not the reason why I suffer. And when we take ownership of our wounding and address it, and then we also develop our adult self, and then miracles happen in relationships.
Well, you're doing great work to do that, really. It's much needed for women to have that enriched relationship with themselves.
Yeah.
And then share that with their partner. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, me too. And you mentioned something about gutsy wife, so I was gonna ask you about that. Like, is it well, a gutsy wife is a woman, that's for sure, right?
Yeah. So I created a program called The Path of the Gutsy Woman, not just the gutsy wife, but a gutsy woman, and helping her step into that sense of being empowered and to grow up her girl energy and transform it into the woman that she is. And I think it's very much needed, because if in fact 70% of divorces are filed by women, I want women to be much more successful in turning things around.
And feeling empowered that they can do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do often find that it's the girl energy that is trying to change her husband.
Yes.
And something that I learned, that men believe what they see, not what they hear. And women believe what they hear and not what they see. So often men start doing something when the wife says, I'm walking out the door, or I want you to leave. Then all of a sudden the man is calling me up on the phone. When's your next appointment? My wife wants to leave me. And the wife is like, why now? I've been complaining to you for the last 5 years. Why now? And he'll say, well, for the last 5 years, you were still there. Now I can see that you're serious. And so women are baffled by that. You mean I have to leave him or have him leave me in order for him to take this seriously? And I says, it looks like that. But can we communicate in a way that the man understands how serious it really is? Because you said something earlier too, that the status quo, like men will, like, everything is fine. She's still here. Yeah, she's grumpy. Yeah, she's complaining, but she's still here. I'm fine with it. And women end up much more dissatisfied in the relationship, like wanting more. And men are like, okay, whatever. So it really is like they're not connecting in their communication. They're not quite understanding what the other person needs. Yeah.
So
And
you
I
find
invite
that
couples work.
most people reach out to you when, I mean, when they it's like it's on the brink of basically divorce. It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's,
I call
do you
my
find? Uh-huh.
I call my office the emergency room for marriages. I have to do triage.
Triage, yeah. Do you find
Yeah.
that that's still like, what's the outcome rates? Is it still possible to save it, or is it too late at that point? Like, what's your?
I have a very high rate of couples staying together.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, they're happy with not staying together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
sometimes it is better, yeah,
yeah,
decision.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. But,
Mm-hmm.
if they're going to work with me, some of them decide not to, and they're just like, they give up. They just don't even want to think about it. They just give up. And it's not a big deal anymore for people to get divorced.
Oh,
So a
yeah.
lot
Well,
more people are getting divorced that maybe shouldn't, like me. Like when I divorced my husband and we got back together, I says, hey, if we had a good therapist, do you think we would have stayed together? And he said, yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
We had, the therapist let us fight in the office and scream at each other, and it was so unproductive that we just
mm-hmm.
gave up.
Right. And basically, what I'm hearing sometimes, it needs to get really bad, needs to be almost like a woman is ready, like she's maybe she wants to try, but she's ready to for it not to work out, like fully like okay with it, with this option too, and that creates like this change, motivation for change for the other partner. Like say, okay, she's I see that she's actually like serious about it, and I need to do something.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So this was an interesting thing that would show up a lot when men would come to see me. They would want to know, teach me how to please my wife. Teach
Mm-hmm.
me how I can make her happy. So, there's a lot out there on people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And for women, it's kind of like, this taboo. You shouldn't be a people pleaser. But ironically enough, men are people pleasers.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. So
Mm-hmm.
men want to make their wives happy. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to make their wives happy. So they come to me to teach me how to make my wife happy. So that's their focus. Women come to me and they say, fix my husband.
Right. Right.
So I came up with a 5-day audio challenge, 5 days to a more responsive husband. And in it, it's geared to women on how to make some corrections and changes that they can do easy that will get more of a response from their husband. So if women want to know how to change their husband, this 5-day challenge is right there for them. It's like, oh, do
That's
this and I can
awesome.
get him to respond. I go, yeah, you can get him to respond better.
That's perfect. Do you have it like recorded somewhere? Is it a program? How can people
It would go,
find
they can go to my website, kimberlybrenner.com. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And on the first
I'll post a
page is
link to
the
your
challenge.
website.
It's free. It's free.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, but it's an audio. They'll get an audio each day for 5 days.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
know.
That's a good resource.
So women want to know, how do I fix him? But
right.
women are powerful. We can influence our husbands. We can.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're talking to the boy because he's acting like one, then we're influencing him to be more of a boy.
Right.
And if we talk to him like, I'm a woman and you're a man, we will get him to be responding to us more like a man. Okay.
So it's basically, that's kind of the other point I had, that it's possible for one partner to start changing, like say,
yes,
and then even if the other is not in couples therapy, say like one only woman is like say in individual therapy, but if she's changing, the system starts to also change, and it's possible that he will like say, oh wait, she's talking to me different, like what's going on, like I have
Yes.
to figure out a new way, and creates
And
change for him.
the interesting thing is that it's the men are responsive. So I would watch if the man did the changing, like he started being more attentive and he brought flowers and he took her out on dates, that doesn't change the marriage if the woman is resentful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the woman, when she lets go of her resentments and makes changes, he will respond to her. That's the power of a woman if she's married to a man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If she's married to a boy, he looks at her and says, this is too difficult. I'm out of here.
Yeah. I'm gonna find
You know,
a better
yeah, I'll
money.
have an affair. I'll have an
Uh-huh.
affair, and that'll give her a reason. I'll be the bad guy, give her a reason to leave me. And ironically enough, even with, because I do a lot of infidelity work, even with that, the woman surprises the husband and says, I don't want to leave you.
But he's basically already trying to get out. Like he's already like yeah.
Sometimes he doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know what he wants.
Because he's a boy. Boys don't know what they want.
They don't. You're
they
right.
they need their mommy to tell them. I mean,
correct.
Yeah.
They're saying the same thing that your female clients will say. I didn't get enough attention.
Right.
She wasn't there for me. She was complaining all the time. And I go, you're not going to throw her under the bus.
Yeah. Let's take responsibility.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, absolutely.
And they do, huh? So
well, in my office, I won't let him get away with it.
Yeah, because you talking to them as a to a man. In them. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to them as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they see that, when they can see, and I will say it was the boy who had the affair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your affair partner, they didn't care. They weren't asking you to diaper the kids. They weren't asking you to get up in the middle of the night. They weren't doing any of that. You were having fun with her. You were feeding your boy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And these guys would look at me like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Because the boy wants to have fun, basically. That's another sign, right? The boy doesn't want responsibility. Responsibility feels heavy, like too much. They just kind of want this fun.
So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because here is the other thing that I talk about with couples. I want them to be a boy and a girl, but with each other.
Uh-huh. Right. Right.
With each other. Put the kids with their in-laws. Go have fun. Take a vacation. Don't talk about anything. When you go on a date, pretend like you're on a date and you don't know each other.
Yeah.
And role play and whatever it is. And for women, I will tell them, go home to your mom if they have a good relationship, and be a little girl and let your mom take care of you. Mm-hmm. And for men, I'll say, go play poker, go canoeing, go shooting, go camping with your buddies, and let the boy out. Mm-hmm. But knowing that I'm married, knowing that the man can say, don't do that, that jeopardizes your marriage. Mm-hmm. Because you can't just only be a man, and you cannot only be a boy. You need the combination.
You need both. Right, because it's exactly, and that's what I run into all of my therapy clients, is that we all have this inner child. We do. We have the part of us that's is free, like loves to play, and it's important to take care of that inner child, that little child inside of us. And it's important to have a developed adult self that can take responsibility, can, make money, can be in the world. So it's important to have both, basically. That's a good takeaway, I guess, for this.
I never want people to think that this idea of boy versus man and girl versus woman, that it's a bad thing to be a boy or a bad thing to be a girl. But you need, with what you said earlier, I think the caveat would be, you need to be a healed girl.
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
healed boy.
Right.
So that you can be playful and have fun, but not from a place of feeling damaged or needy or broken.
Right.
I like that, what you said, that approach. I like that. So I might add that to my repertoire.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that we, maybe, and that's a good place maybe to end here, is that we brought in that it is not a bad thing to be a boy or girl. It's just good to first be aware when you are doing that. And second, also have a developed adult self and kind of choose, okay, like I have this time dedicated to my girl, a boy, and I'm going to go out and play. But later I'm just, when I come home, I'm gonna be a man who's gonna help my wife to take care of kids, so it's flexible, but you're not unconsciously playing out the patterns. Basically, you're not aware of it.
Yeah Very good good wrap up.
Yeah. And if you just say a few words about, you mentioned you have a book coming out. Was it?
I
right?
do in fact, here it is. It's called The Gutsy Wife's Guide to Save Your Marriage.
Nice.
6 Steps to Master Effective Communication with Your Husband.
Nice.
Yeah, it's coming out on Amazon next week. Woohoo! On my birthday.
Yay!
On my birthday.
Oh, you also November baby. I'm a November baby. So.
Are you?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you too.
You too. I'm going to include all the information about your website, and if people are interested to look up the book, learn more about the challenge, they can do that and find that your work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you, Iryna.
Thank you.
Remember to be loved, guys. Be loved.
Be loved. Bye, everyone. Bye.